joining us for the 30-minute BREEZE AERMOD version 8.0 demonstration. My name is Yamna Mausam, and I'm joined here with my colleagues Brian Holland and Yinqing Liu. To give you an outline of what we will be discussing today, Mr. Holland will give you a brief overview of BREEZE AERMOD and the updates that are included in the recent AERMOD 8.0 release. And following that, Ms. Liu will go over a couple of example cases to demonstrate how the new features and enhancements can be utilized. We will wrap up the presentation by providing you with some information on how to update your software to the latest version, and at the very end, we will be happy to answer any questions you may have. A few things we want to point out before we begin. All of the information presented will be emailed to you after the presentation. For any questions we don't get to during the demo, we will include answers to in the email. Also, since we are limited to 30 minutes for the demonstration, all attendees are muted currently, so if you have any questions, there's a question section in the GoToWebinar panel. Feel free to add any questions here during the demonstration, and then at the end, we will answer any questions that come in. So with that, I'll pass on the presentation to Mr. Holland.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So to kick things off, I'll just give a very brief summary of AERMOD for those who aren't already very familiar with it, and then we'll get into the main new features in this new version 8.0 before the demonstration. So we'll sort of summarize everything that's new before we show it to you. BREEZE AERMOD, if you're not familiar, is a graphical user interface for US EPA's AERMOD model. AERMOD is the US EPA recommended model for most situations, and it has very wide use and acceptance in the US and around the world. As a result of that, has active scientific development from US EPA, and then on our end, we have the graphical user interface that makes that model much easier to use, that we're also continually improving, as you'll see here. So just a summary list of what's new in version 8.0, the things that we're going to go through here. A new download maps feature, a feature that converts DWG or DXF AutoCAD file objects to AERMOD objects, the ability to create buffer array receptor grids, which will explain what that means, and tools to more easily import other AERMOD file formats into BREEZE AERMOD. Then we'll also touch on a number of other improvements as well. You could summarize all of these improvements as being designed to speed up your modeling process and streamline your modeling process. BREEZE AERMOD has always had the full scientific capabilities of the AERMOD model built in. What this update is really trying to do is take some key areas that tend to slow people down and take a lot of effort and make those much simpler and easier. So that starts with the download maps tool. This tool will download high-resolution satellite imagery for any location on Earth, and then will import it and automatically georeference it in your AERMOD model run. The user has the ability to adjust the scale and resolution, so you can get anything from this, ranging from a very detailed image that just zooms in on your source location to a regional image that you can use to overlay your modeling results on. As I said, it automatically georeferences those images, so there's no work involved in that on the user point of view. You'll see the interface in practice during our demonstration, but this just gives you an idea. The user only needs to specify the center point that you want for the map, as well as the dimensions of the map and the resolution that you want. And then, as you can see in the bottom of this image, you'll get a preview of that satellite image generated, and then you can import it, and it will automatically be pulled into your AERMOD model run, or you can use it to draw in sources and receptors and so forth. Next, the DWG and DXF AutoCAD file model object creation tool. This takes objects that are already in an AutoCAD type DWG or DXF file and allows those to be directly converted into AERMOD model objects like buildings and sources. It's a simple point-and-click process that allows you to, if you have a base map that shows the buildings or the source locations, roads, fence lines, anything like that within your property, you can select those objects in the AutoCAD file after importing that, and then directly convert those into a BREEZE AERMOD model object. This also has the ability to, you can select multiple objects. If you have a tank farm, you could select all of the tanks and then import those all in one step. So that really, if you have an AutoCAD type file for a facility, that really speeds up the model creation process. You're not having to manually draw anything in. You can use the AutoCAD shapes directly. Next, the buffer array receptor grid tool. This tool creates receptors at a set distance around the perimeter of an object, either one row of receptors or many rows, depending on what you prefer. So those receptors will then follow the contours of the model objects. So this is great for things like roadways and fence lines. If you want the receptor grid to follow the path of the road and the fence, and in particular, this is very helpful if you have specific regulatory requirements, as many jurisdictions do, that you need receptors to be a set distance away from a road, or receptors need to cover out to a set distance away from a fence line. You can now do that in a very detailed manner rather than just having to use a rectangular grid or something like that. So that's all created off of the shape of that model object automatically. So again, very simple and can dramatically speed up what you could have done previously in the model, but it would have been a much more time-consuming process. And the fourth big feature I'll talk about, AERMOD view file integration. If you have AERMOD files that were created with the AERMOD view program, so it's a different AERMOD user interface, then those control files, the .ADI AERMOD view control files, can now be read directly into BREEZE AERMOD. You also have the ability to import AERMOD view files and convert those into BREEZE AERMOD files. So if you have a regulatory agency, or you have a client, or you're just dealing with a set of modeling that has been done using AERMOD view, you can easily convert that into a BREEZE AERMOD file format, so you can use that model setup directly without having to recreate anything. So it really streamlines that process. Then lastly, I'll briefly touch on several other new features. First, we have a new tool to assign deposition parameters to multiple sources at once. Previously, if you were assigning gaseous or particulate deposition parameters, you had to do that on a source-by-source basis, which could be time-consuming if you had a large number of sources that all have the same deposition parameters. So now we have a tool, it's very similar to the variable emission rate tool, if you've used that before, that can apply that the same set of parameters to multiple sources at once. Next, we have a meteorological merger tool that can take individual year meteorological data files and then combine those into one multi-year meteorological data file. So that gives you a simple way of getting one large MET file that allows you to do one AERMOD run covering the entire period of that multi-year file, rather than having to do a separate model run for each year. Next, source ID ranges, rather than just static source IDs, can now be read in from input files. If you use include files, which is a separate input file that stores receptor or source information outside of the main AERMOD input file, objects within those files can now be viewed in the map and data tabs. There's much better integration of those types of files. On top of that, there are a number of additional smaller features, enhancements, and bug fixes in this update. So With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Yingqing for a demonstration of some of these new features.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Yingqing of Trinity Consultants. Thank you for attending this webinar. So here I'm going to show you some of the new features and enhancements in the latest BREEZE AERMOD version 8. So Brian just covered all those new features, but I'd like to show you how to use them in a real modeling case. And here, so let's take a look at this model input file. I created it in advance. And in this file, we have some buildings generated here, and point sources, a couple of them. And these dark purple lines, they are line sources. So the actual thing here, they are representing some railway tracks. I'm going to use these line sources to model railway emissions. And then I have these purple dots representing the boundary, facility boundary. So they are placed as boundary receptors. And around this boundary, I have some discrete receptors placed at a certain distance to the boundary line and also at a uniform spacing. And here in this background, we have these white lines and shapes. They are actually the part of a DXF file imported to this model as a base map. And we can see like these buildings and then the line sources and also these boundary receptors were created based on the DXF base map. And in addition, I actually imported like, Raster Base Map using these two download maps. So with this tool, with this Raster Base Map downloaded, now I zoom out, you can see like not only the facilities on the map, we can still also check the surrounding areas next to this facility. And so this is the project I have already created. Now I'm going to use a separate file and then to recreate like the buildings and line sources and the discrete receptors on this file. So you can see how the tools or enhancement features being used. Here I'm using the same DXF file. And just to save time, I placed these boundary receptors ahead of time. And first, I'm going to place more receptors along my facility boundary. Then we can use this buffer receptor tool, just as Brian mentioned. Click this object array button on the ribbon bar, and then find the last item on the drop-down list, buffer receptors. Now we have this new window showing. Now because I'm going to place receptors around these boundary lines, so I choose boundary receptor as my model object. And this distance, it means the distance from a receptor to the boundary line. And the spacing means like a distance between receptors. For the first ring of receptor, I'm going to use 25 meters as distance and 25 meters spacing. And then the next ring, so 50 meters distance. That means this ring of receptors will be 50 meters to the boundary line and still the same spacing. So I will keep the same spacing, but then we see like the receptor has pushed further away from the boundary. And click OK. Yes. Here, so these receptors are placed around my facility boundaries at a uniform spacing and at our given distance to the boundary. And next, let me create some buildings for this model project. here, this is what we can do. Like first, select a building from the DXF base map. This building is selected, and then on the ribbon bar here, look at the middle of the ribbon bar. In this group, drawing, selection, and editing tools. Now we see this button, edit, and then click the last item on this list, convert DWG DXF object. Now in this new window, we see here is the ID. ID means the DXF object ID we just selected. So this means the ID for this object, the selected one, and its layer in the DXF file. And because I'm going to turn it into a building, so I select this polygon building for my target model object type, and then just click OK. Yeah, so a building is created out of that DXF object. Do another one. First, select this building on the DXF base map, and then click this, edit, convert. Now, select polygon building from my target model object type list. Click OK. Now another building. Yes, since these buildings were drawn based on the DXF model object, DXF object shape. If I double click it, then open its form, you can see, so the building height wasn't really defined yet. Now all we need is to enter building height, and then the building information will be complete. So I double click this building to open its WinForm, and then give a height. Now our buildings are created. Yeah. So this is one way to use this conversion tool to convert DXF or DWG objects into buildings. Then this same tool, we can also use this same tool to convert some DXF objects into sources, like line sources and area sources. Say, these lines, we remember from my last file, so they are actually railroad tracks, and I used line sources to model them, to model this railroad emission. Now I turn this by first click this railroad from the DXF file, and then use the same conversion tool, edit, convert DWG DXF object. And this time I'm going to choose line source, EPA line source here from my target model object list, and then click OK. Yes, so this railway tracks in this DXF file are turned into line sources. And let me click one, open it up. You know, even though we can, based on the DXF file, we know the start point of the line and the end point of the line, which we see here. So start point of the line sources and end point of the line sources. So we still need to provide other dimensional parameters to complete this source, like release height, initial vertical dimension, and width. And certainly we still need to enter its emission rate, then to make the whole source complete. And another thing I'd like to mention is here, because in AERMOD, all line sources have to be straight line. And this part of railway track, this is not a straight line, it's a polyline. And with this type of polyline, when BREEZE AERMOD converted into line sources, it will create many short line sources, and then connected to each other, so to represent the whole polyline railway track. And next, I'd like to show you the tool to add deposition parameters to many sources all at one time. And assume for this model, I'm going to model TSP, and I like to include particle depletion in my modeling. So to model a depletion or deposition, we need to provide deposition parameters. Now this can be done with our new tool. Open this source option window, and then come to here, the source tools tab. And from this tool list, select the last one here, apply particle deposition parameters to a group of sources. And here, these are the line sources I just created, and select them all. With deposition, here I'm going to use the method 2 deposition algorithm. Place in the parameters, and then click this button, apply parameters to selected sources. Now we see this set of deposition parameters have been applied to the selected sources. And we can double check by open the source window, and then we can see here. So all these sources, now they all have the deposition parameters added to them. And this is the last source I have. So every source now has this deposition parameters. Yes, so this tool is very useful if you need to add deposition parameters to many sources. And then usually, like when you model the same type of emission sources, they may share the same set of deposition parameters. So to apply a same set of deposition parameters to multiple sources, then this is the tool you can use, and you can get it done very quickly. Yeah, instead of typing each parameters to each source one at a time. So the next thing I'd like to show you is to download maps. Here, click this download maps button from the ribbon bar. Now we see this download maps window. Like the information we need to provide here is latitude, longitude of map center with map size. Certainly we need to select resolution for our map. And with this model input file, because I already have buildings, receptors, and sources in place, BREEZE AERMOD can calculate the center of my model domain based on these existing model objects. And then it places that model domain, center of model domain into here. Just use it as the center of my map. And this is what is done by BREEZE AERMOD. But certainly if you have different purpose, like you can add your own map center here to override these default numbers. And with this time, I'm going to use these default map centers and give the size of the map you want and select the resolution level. This time I'm going to use this level 7 resolution for neighborhood. And click this button, get map image. The map is downloading when you see this line, downloading image. Yes, so the map is here. If we check it, I think I can see my facility. Yes, this is my facility. Now this is the right map. Click this button, import. Now we see the map downloaded to my model project. One more thing I think I'd like to mention is a different way to use my map. You know, this map probably it doesn't really have the best resolution, but however, sometimes when you don't have a plot plan and you to draw your model object from, and you don't have other source for the building's position or definition or like a dimension, we can first download our map, and then we can draw our buildings based on the downloaded map. I'm going to show you how to do that. Still use the same facility. Like before we download map, we need to set the projection of our where our facility is. This one is I'm going to use UTM projection system, and this site is in UTM zone 14. Come to down. So this is an empty model input file. I have nothing here. Come to download the map. This time I need to provide my own map center, latitude and longitude. Like we use the same site. So I'm going to use the same map center. And here 967482. Yeah. Because this time I like to draw my buildings against my map, so I want to use the best available resolution. I'll make it a little bit smaller so I can have the map. Yes. Now you see, yes. So this map has a lot better resolution. The outline of these buildings a lot clearer than the last map, import map. Now zoom in. Yes, I can probably zoom in. I can probably draw my buildings against the outline of the image. Yes. So this is another way to draw your buildings in case you don't have a plot plan or other source to get where the buildings are. This concludes my demo today. Now I'm going to pass the control back to Yamna.
Thank you, Yunjing, for your demonstration. I hope that was really helpful for everyone. So with that, we'll wrap up with some quick update information. To update the software to the latest 8.0 version, you can simply log into your MyBreeze account and download the latest version of the software. If your maintenance is expired, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to assist. We also have a promotion going on through the, so we'll be happy to assist. Just a few things before I go into the promotion is when you go into your account, uninstall your software before uninstall the software on your computer before installing the new version. You will not lose any work that was previously saved or any files. If you do have expired maintenance, please contact us and we'll be happy to help you with that. So for the next, a couple of advantages of renewing your maintenance would be to, you will receive, it's for a whole year, you receive regular BREEZE and US EPA enhancements. You do have access to the technical support team for any modeling and software issues you may run into. You also get some special discounts and promotions and access to a knowledgeable staff of meteorologists, engineers, and consultants. Okay, so I also want to quickly mention a promotion we have going on for this month. If you do purchase a new license of BREEZE AERMOD, it will include a free license of BREEZE Downwash Analyst. If you are not aware of what BREEZE Downwash Analyst does, it's a companion product that simplifies the process of interpreting building downwash data in BREEZE AERMOD. This data analysis tool takes the cryptic numerical results of AERMOD's BPIP building preprocessor and displays them visually, clearly showing the effects of buildings on AERMOD results. If you're interested in this promotion, do let us know. So with that, that wraps up with our presentation. We do have a couple of questions. So I know we're running a little bit over, but if you don't have time to stay, then we will send out those questions to you. But if you do, and if you have other questions, feel free to contact us. So I'm just going to take a couple of questions here, and the other questions that we have, we will send that we do not take right now. We will send answers to you individually for those questions. So one of the questions was by Patricia. She asked is there a choice to input UTM coordinates instead of latitude, longitude when downloading maps?
Right now, it just uses latitude, longitude. If UTM is something that would be helpful, we could certainly add that option in the next release. So thanks for that idea. And if anyone else, that would also help you, feel free to send an email to us at support@trinityconsultants.com to put your vote in for that one.
Okay. Another question was by Rosemary. She's asking if the available maps are just for the USA.
No, it covers the whole globe.
Right. I think we have a number of questions coming in, so I'm going to take just one more. Sarah asked is the map image embedded within model files or stored in a cloud to reduce size?
The files are included in the AERMOD file, and that's done to increase the portability so that you'll be able to use the files if you're on a computer that doesn't have internet access, or you're sharing between multiple users or something like that. You'll just be able to email the AMZ file, that one file that contains everything, all your input data, output data, base maps, and everything is all in one package there. But that is a zip file to reduce the file size on your computer as much as possible.
All right, thank you, Brian. I think Jim also asked if there's a way to get a copy of the presentation. So yes, Jim and everyone else, I will send the presentation and the questions out and the recording of the demo out to everyone after as early as tomorrow morning. So please look out for that. And again, if you have any other questions about this or any new features that you would like to recommend to us, or just generally any issues you're having, please feel free to send us an email and we'd be happy to look into that. So I know there are a lot of other questions coming in, but we have a record of all those questions, so we will get to those, and we are over time right now. So I'm just gonna finish off this presentation. Thank you so much for taking out the time of your day to participate in this demonstration, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the day. And as I said before, you will receive a copy of all of this tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you again. Have a great day.